Today I fucked up by teaching my daughter to say please. Today I hit a milestone I have been mentally hiking towards for about 6 months. I have a daughter, 3, who is selective mute or nonverbal, currently awaiting a full assessment, and I've started speech training her. I didn't know the first thing about it until I had to, but I've thrown myself into it. It is worth every moment, but can be quite fruitless a lot of the time, so I have been celebrating every small win. Waving hello when I say it, pronouncing half a word when prompted, or making an animal noise kind of thing, while hoping for a breakthrough moment. This afternoon during learning time I sat her at her little desk and gave her some number blocks. We stacked them and say the numbers. She wanted me to put one on, and tried to grab my hand. I held back and routinely said, "Say please," before going to do what she asked. Out of nowhere peeped a little pleesh, clearly as day and music to my ears. I was so surprised I just stared at her and asked her to say it again. She did. Cue celebrating and dancing and spending the next half an hour back and forth with her passing me blocks and saying please every time. I was in my element. At dinner time, she said please when she wanted me to pass her the juice. She said please at bath time when she wanted the towel to wipe her eye. What could be better? There was no downside. Until bedtime, she can be a fickle one. Most nights she goes to bed really well, but if she decides to fight the sleep we can be in for an hour or two of dramatics before she finally passes out like a drunk. Tonight however she was armed with a new arrow in her bow. I have just had to explain to the 2 different concerned neighbors who knocked on my door together that while there is a child in my home screaming, "Please please please no no please," like they're being murdered, it will stop soon. It is in fact just bedtime, and actually a positive thing because we learned a new word. Yay, this parenting thing is wild. Too long did not read. I taught my daughter to say, please, today. At bedtime she threw a tantrum and started screaming it like she was a child about to be fed to a bear, causing both of my nearest neighbors to come knock and check I wasn't committing a crime. Edit. I never in my wildest dreams expected so many people to interact and share similar experiences. Thank you all so much. It has been really nice to read your comments of support, and I appreciate every bit of advice. I'm telling my daughter she's Reddit famous, haha. Hooray for the milestone. Congratulations for throwing yourself into the speech lessons and for this win. Sorry you had to deal with neighbors who were concerned, but that's a plus with neighbors vs not. Oh man, that's tough. They can be so smart sometimes and the most wholesome lessons can be turned on their heads. Good on you for your patience, she sounds adorable. My speech-delayed son, Gestalt learner, echolalic with a huge vocabulary and starting to make his own sentences, just started saying, "Mother, can you please stop saying, no thank you, quite so much?" When we were working on coughing into his elbow he said, "My arm does not want to." It will only get wilder, promise. But it's totally worth it. As soon as my youngest could talk, made it my mission in life to teach her the phrase, "I need the receipt for tax purposes." She was still stumbling over her words, but you could tell what she was saying pretty early on, and she did it at appropriate times in the checkout process. Freaking adorable. My husband will throw our kid over his shoulder and pretend the kid is a bag of trash, which is normally a fan favorite at our house and also sometimes a helpful way to diffuse a tantrum. But oh man, nothing made me feel like a worse parent than my 3-year-old going, "I am not trash. Don't call me trash," in a crowded public space. Sometimes even the positive stuff just backfires. Also incorporate signs. Check out old signing time videos or other online resources for simple one-word signs for you to use paired with words. Please, thank you, more, yes, no, milk, water, etc. Today I fucked up by laughing at my girlfriend's parents after trying to explain how Wi-Fi works. So this happened a couple nights ago during dinner with my girlfriend and her parents. Things were going fine until their internet went out briefly. Her dad starts saying, with absolute confidence, that the Wi-Fi was probably running out because too many people in the building were using theirs at the same time. I thought he was joking. I chuckled and said, "Oh no, that's not how Wi-Fi works." He didn't laugh. In fact, he looked at me like I had just insulted him. So I tried to clarify. I explained that each household has its own router, its own bandwidth, and that while network congestion exists, it's not because Wi-Fi is a shared neighborhood pool of signal that runs out like hot water. Then his wife jumps in and says something like, "Well, if our phones are near the neighbor's walls, maybe it interferes and weakens our Wi-Fi. That's why I always keep mine in the center of the house." At this point I was genuinely confused and tried to keep it light, like, "Oh okay, I see what you're saying, but I promise that's not quite how it works." I even offered to help optimize their router placement later. But they both kept arguing with full confidence, and after the 5th time her dad said, "Wi-Fi can run out if the building is too full," I lost it. I let out a laugh. Not a polite chuckle, a genuine, caught off guard, snorty exhale kind of laugh. It was bad. Her mom stopped mid-sentence. Her dad stared at me like I'd insulted his entire bloodline. My girlfriend gave me a subtle death glare across the table. I immediately apologized and tried to backtrack, but the damage was done. The rest of dinner was painfully quiet. On the drive home, she told me I made them feel stupid and that I should have just let it go. Now I'm debating whether to show up with flowers or a Wi-Fi explainer chart. So yeah, today I fucked up by trying to correct a harmless tech misconception and accidentally turning it into a dinner disaster. Too long did not read. Laughed at my girlfriend's parents after they insisted Wi-Fi can run out, now they hate me. Never get involved with in law tech. Ever. Credentials. IT manager, net, SY's admin and married 26 years. Op seems to foo a lot. Dad and mom are using the wrong terminology but they aren't that off. Everyone's router is probably set to the same channel and causing bandwidth issues. Can't imagine going to my girlfriend's parents' house and arguing with them until I belittled their intelligence. Even if you're right, it's just not worth it, my dude. Let it go. You can't teach everyone everything, and now her parents are gonna view you this way for a long time, if not the rest of your relationship with them. Dunning-Kruger at work, or R, confidently incorrect. But Wi-Fi can get very congested in a busy apartment block, can't it? Especially the limited 2.4 GHz channels. There just isn't that much spectrum. Though fully disappearing for a few minutes sounds more like an ISP brain fart, you're right. Today I fucked up by leaving my luggage at home and not realizing until I was at the airport. I, F22, tend to procrastinate, but get things done, and that includes preparing for a flight. Yesterday was a fairly busy day for me, so it wasn't until 8/9 that I actually got to start packing. In the end, everything, as in my hair, nails, outfit, necessities, was together by 2 a.m. I had to leave by 4:50 a.m. No worries though, a quick power nap before I leave and then I can just sleep on the plane. Morning comes around and I wake up at 4:33, could be worse. I somewhat frantically get myself together and head out the door. When I see my driver waiting outside, I said thank you and that it's not heavy at all, referring to my suitcase. It was light as a feather, but I packed light since it's a one-day trip so it makes sense. I get to the airport, which is an hour away from my home, and have about an hour till boarding. I stand in the security line when a person who works there comes up to me and asks, "What airline are you flying with?" I thought it was a weird question to ask since no one has ever asked me that before, but I was groggy and said, "American." She said, "Okay, you'll have to check your bag." I took a slight pause, looked down, and finally registered what is by my side. Not only is it not my carry-on that I packed for this flight, but a big, empty suitcase that now needs to be checked in. To add some context in, both bags are essentially the same, just one is bigger than the other. I got ready in the dark and even managed to put my pants on inside out. Anyway, back to the story. I take 5 seconds before realizing that I won't have time to go back and get my actual luggage, so I go and get my empty bag checked. I somehow very quickly talk myself out of having a panic attack and just accept that this is what it is now. My heart is still racing and I still can't think too much about it since I'll just stress myself out. Now my trip just got more expensive. What brings me peace is knowing that I'm not the first person this has happened to, so I'll more or less be okay. I may be going to a state I've never been to, but it's still domestic. I kinda sorta have the funds to continue on with this trip, and I have a backpack with my essentials, so I'm not too out of luck. So now instead of going to my hotel and settling, I'll be frantically looking for stuff before the reason I went on this trip in the first place, a concert. I have about 4 hours, which should be reasonable, or at least that's what I keep telling myself. Oh, and did I mention this is my first solo trip? At least I have an interesting travel story. Edit. By one-day trip I meant I was staying there for one night. So it's actually a 2-day trip. Too long did not read. I grabbed an empty suitcase, instead of my carry-on for my trip. Therefore now having to buy extra clothes, necessities, and paying for an unnecessary checked bag. It sucks, but I always think if you have your passport you can get everything else at the airport or when you're there. You could even discover you look great in Bermuda shorts. This is hilarious because it's such a big foo, but also more or less something that can be handled easily. Have fun shopping, don't stress too much, and maybe choose a special spot to keep your packed bag by the front door next time. I feel like this could be solved with not having several suitcases in the same location. Especially when one is packed and one is not. LMAO, first solo trip and you packed nothing. Iconic chaos. How the hell did it take you from 8/9 to 2 a.m. to pack for a one-day trip? That sounds like 5-minute pack at most. I can't get over that you packed for 5 hours and that's only for a lightly packed bag for a one-day trip. Oof.